America is experiencing the highest levels of inflation in 40 years. The average price for a gallon of regular gas is today a record $4.47. Rents are growing at their fastest pace since 2006. Food prices are rising. And Americans are thinking about all of this as they prepare to hit the polls this November. A new NBC News poll released this morning shows that inflation and the economy are top of mind. Joining me now is my Washington Post editorial board colleague and columnist, Heather Long. Heather, welcome back to the Sunday Show.
Thanks for having me.
So, the pace of the growth of inflation is starting to slow. Is that a good sign?
Well, it certainly came down a little bit in April, but only a tiny bit, and there is not a lot to cheer about in this latest inflation news, especially if the White House. And not only do prices remain high overall, but it's spreading out across the economy. You were just flashing a number of those different parts of the economy that are experiencing high prices. This isn't just a story about gas and car prices being high. We are now seeing high prices across the service sector, food prices and grocery store prices going up, electric costs are way up, airline flights, hotels, restaurants. I've even seen restaurants starting to add an inflation charge on the bill. And the one that really concerns me the most is rising rent prices. It used to be that rents were high in New York City. Now we are seeing really fast increases in rents in places like Phoenix and Tampa and Las Vegas and Jacksonville, Florida. Places that used to be the affordable parts of America now have some of the fastest rent increases in the country. So to put it all together for you, Jonathan, the likelihood is come election day, inflation could still be up around 6% or higher. Goldman Sachs is predicting 7% inflation. That's a little lower than 8.3% now, but that sure is not going to be very comfortable for a lot of America.
Right, and that's bad news and won't be terribly comfortable for Democrats who are on the ballot this November seeking election or re-election. But that being said, Heather, have Republicans issued credible plans of their own to deal with inflation?
Absolutely not. There is no great Republican plan to deal with inflation. But unfortunately, Republicans don't really need a great plan. Most of what they do is blame President Biden, and a lot of Americans do that as well. The other thing you hear from Republicans is, oh, we need to reduce government spending. Well, of course, when under George W. Bush was president, or certainly under President Trump, they did not do a very good job of cutting spending. They were increasing the deficit during most of those presidencies. So it's kind of ironic to hear Republicans now talk about wanting to increase spending. But again, I think what's problematic for the Democrats is they're the ones who are in charge right now, and the people in charge do get blamed for inflation. What I will say I wish the White House would do, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't done it, the one last thing they could do that could make a difference here is to lower some of those tariffs. Lower those tariffs that President Trump put in place on China. Or we even have tariffs on Canadian lumber for all the talk about soaring house prices and we need to build more homes in this country. We could be lowering those tariffs on Canadian lumber to help reduce some of those housing costs. And there just hasn't been any movement or very little movement on those tariffs.
Heather, let me get you on something that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said this week. And she said point blank that taking away the right to choose would, quote, set women back decades. Can you talk more about that?
It was a really powerful statement. This is from our first female Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, to be talking about the abortion issue, not usually something that a Treasury Secretary would weigh in on. I think the point she was really hammering home here is not only would the Supreme Court decision to potentially overturn Roe v. Wade change 50 years of legal precedent and medical precedent in the United States, but it could have a huge impact on women's careers and educational prospects. What we know from many years of economic research is that women who are denied abortions struggle financially for years afterwards. They often go in high in debt. They can't find good jobs. This is particularly true of younger women, women who haven't been able to complete high school or haven't been able to do any college or complete any certificates. And, we don't really talk about how these impacts could just spill over into so many aspects of women's lives. I think what's really frustrating to watch is that Republicans in many states across the country are rushing to one-up each other and make these more restrictive abortion laws. And at the same time, there's almost no discussion from Republicans about paid maternity leave, paid parental leave that we still don't have in this country, paid sick leave, or how we can make childcare more affordable and more accessible. These are programs and plans we know would help women, would help children, would help families, and that's not in this discussion at all right now.
Washington Post editorial board member and columnist Heather Long, as always, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.
Thanks a lot.
And tonight, MSNBC